G'day everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I have yet another lighting product review, but this time it's actually not an LED, it's a flash, and it is the Godox AD1200 Pro. So Godox were kind enough to send me this unit to test out and do a review video. They haven't paid me for the video, and they also haven't approved this video before I've released it. I do want to give a big thanks to Godox for sending me this unit to test and for their patience, because it's been quite a few months in the making. I haven't yet been able to do the full test video that I wanted to do. I really want to put this unit through its paces in outdoor conditions using high-speed sync, but as yet, due to a number of roadblocks, I haven't been able to put that video together yet. But I have used it in a number of situations, both for work and for some creative portraiture, so I'll share some of the behind the scenes from those shoots in this video. But before I get into that, let's do a little bit of an overview of this unit, and let's start with the bag that it comes supplied with. So this is a really fantastic bag, and I really like it. It's pretty lightweight on its own. Roller wheels, so you can take it pretty much anywhere, but it also does have hidden in the back here shoulder straps, so you can use it as a backpack as well, which is very handy. And the roller handle is hidden in this little pocket in here, and that just pops up like so. Pretty simple. Carry handle on the top here. On the side we've got straps for a tripod or a light stand, and again on this side a little pocket and another little strap. On the very front you've got a couple of little pockets in here just to tuck away little bits and pieces. Actually comes supplied with a rain cover as well. The zips are really quite sturdy, and they do have a little locking feature. You can pop a padlock in there. If we open it up and have a look inside, you've got a very big space. It's going to hold the unit itself and the head, charger, all the accessories. It does come with some extra padding as well, so you can fit that out exactly how you wish. And in the lid here we've got some see-through pockets which are really handy, and a couple of other little pockets which would be suitable for memory cards, etc. So that's the case, and what comes supplied with it is of course the AD1200 battery pack itself, the H1200P head with its attached cable. You also get a case, and there is a carry strap for this as well, so that holds the battery pack and makes it a nice portable over the shoulder unit to carry around on location. And of course you get a charger and a mains cable. Obviously depending on the country where you are located, you'll get the appropriate mains cable for that. And of course you get a battery included, and here is the battery here, the WB1200H battery. This is a 5200 milliamp battery that comes supplied, and you can also get a 2600 milliamp battery as an optional extra, and that will allow you to take this unit on an airplane. It's fairly simple to put this battery in. You'll see that it has a set of connectors on the top here which line up in the unit itself. So the easy way to remember how to put this in is that the label on the battery is facing up. Slide that in and then lock this little lever in. So to release the battery, again, it's pretty simple. There's a little lever here which you push up, and that will pop the handle out. Then you just need to hold that little lever up again and pull on the handle, and the battery will slide out. So also what we have on the top of the battery here, apart from the connector to power the control unit, we've also got the connector for the mains charger. Now this is one little area where I think the AD1200 could be improved, and that is with the charging connector. It will only go in one way, but sometimes it's a little difficult to line these little lugs up, and it's quite easy to actually damage the pins in the charging cable. So I've got the charging cable here so I can try and show you that. So there is a little arrow on the top of the charging cable, and that lines up with the arrow on the battery. But sometimes if you're in a low light situation or don't have your glasses on, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to see that and line it up. So if you try and force it upside down or slightly off, you can actually bend these little pins that are in here, and I've actually done that once. So that is something that I would love to see get improved and use a cable that's a little bit easier to insert. So thankfully you can buy an additional charger fairly cheaply. Here in Australia they're about $75. So I've actually bought another charger just as an insurance policy. And eventually I'd probably get a second battery as well. So one other little thing to note, and this is something I wasn't aware of and actually caused me some issues when I first got the unit. So when I first got it, I obviously charged up the battery separately, popped it in the power pack, pressed the on button, and nothing happened. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out what was going on. Got to the point where I actually sent a video of what was happening to my contact at Godox and asked the question, am I doing something wrong? The reply I got back was that there is little charging indicators. So next to that, which what I thought was just a series of lights, is a little button. Press that in and it will show you the charge status of the battery. But I feel like that is also something you need to press before you actually use the unit. And I did actually come across that situation again on a later date when I hadn't used the battery pack for quite a while. Charged up the battery, popped it in again, nothing happened until I took the battery out and pressed on that little button. As soon as I then inserted the battery, pressed the power button, and everything was fine. So if you do actually have one of these units and you find yourself in that situation where the power pack won't turn on, just press that little battery charge indicator on the battery itself before you insert it, and hopefully that will fix the situation. Okay, so let's plug the flash head into the battery pack. I'll switch it on and I'll give a quick run through of some of the features in the menu. I won't go too far into it. I actually haven't delved too far into the manual myself yet. I've just basically operated it for the major functions that I needed during the shoots that I've used it with. So plugging it in is fairly simple. You can see that this plug can only go in one way. It's just a matter of angling it down at the front and then pushing down until it clicks in. And then to release, you've just got a little lever at the back here. Again, just go in reverse, pull it up from the back first and then out from the front. On off button here, just hold that in for a second and the unit will power up. Now the fan will come on pretty much instantaneously. You may or may not be able to hear that in my microphone here, but this is the fan located here just above the top of the battery. And if we spin it around, there's another fan on the other side and just some little vents there as well. So it is designed to be used as a professional unit. It puts out quite a lot of power and therefore does need some active cooling, which is why the fans are there. But at this stage, I haven't really pushed it too far, so I have not come even close to overheating this unit. So let's have a look at the button layout. If we start with our top left button, we've got our group and channel button. If we just click that once, we can see that scrolling through our groups, A through to E. If we hold that down, then we'll see our channel indicator light up, and then we can use our dial to scroll through all the channels. Once you've selected the channel you want to use, you can just press down on the dial and that will select it and lock it into place. Next to that is our menu button. And we've got a number of options here. Photo cell on or off. I was using this recently with some other branded flashes, so I had it set to slave on I'm going to turn that off again now before I forget. So we do have a modelling light option. If I turn that on now, you can see that you've got options there for modelling light of continuous or intermittent. Here is your modelling light button. If I just press that on, you can see that light up. After modelling light, we have standby. Here you can set the duration of your standby. So you can have standby off completely, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 190 minutes, and 120 minutes. Light refers to the display light here. You can have it turn off after 15 seconds. You can turn it off completely, or you can have it on and stay on the whole time. So delay is the next one after the light setting. That will allow you to delay the flash sync after the shutter has been pressed. So by default that's set to off. So you can see that changing in tenths of a second, and that will go right up to 30 seconds. So you can delay your flash firing by up to 30 seconds after the shutter has been pressed. So after delay we have units and alt. Now I'm not 100% sure what those two do, but they do work in conjunction together. I'll try and put a little descriptor up on the screen for you now, just to give you a little bit of an idea, but that may require a little bit more research later down the track. So after alt we have LCD, and that just refers to the contrast level of this LCD screen, and you can have that +3 or -3, or just set to the default of 0. Then we have ID, and you can set a wireless ID on these units, anything from 1 to 99, and that's useful if you're using multiple units in the one location and you don't want to trigger everybody else's flash units off. You can set a unique ID for each individual unit. So the next one is step, and that is basically just your preference of having a power setting displayed as a fraction or as in decimal units. After that we have reset, so you can reset the unit back to factory defaults. So after that we have times, and that just basically is a counter for the number of times the unit has been flashed, and it separates those in standard and high speed sync. As you can see by the counter here, this unit has fired 2,227 times currently in the standard mode, and as yet 0 times in high speed sync. So that's it for the menu. Let's have a look at the other buttons on top here. We've got mode next, and that is where we can just choose between TTL, full manual, or multi. So with frequency we can change that anything from 1 up to 70, and then our hertz can change anything from 1 right up to 100. So let's see what happens if we fire that with a frequency of 40 and 100 hertz. Wow, super quick. Let's change that to something a little bit more reasonable. Let's do 5 with a frequency of, let's say, 10. All right, let's go back out into manual mode, and let's have a look at the other buttons here. Next to mode, we have our wireless selection button. Below that, we have our high speed sync button, so you can turn high speed sync on or off. And below that is our beep button. So basically that is just the beep after the unit has recycled. So you can turn that off if you don't want it. And then over here we have our modelling light button, as we looked at before, and of course our flash test button. So over here next to where our mains head plugs into, we've got a couple of little hidden flaps. So under this little flap we have two 3.5mm sync jack sockets, and under this one here we actually have a USB-C firmware port jack. Alright, so let's have a little look at the flash head itself. So now this is how it will look when you take it out of the case for the first time. On the front here is a reflector with a cap, so that acts as a full protection cap. Now you can use the flash unit like this, and we have an umbrella mounting socket just down at the bottom here. So to take your accessories on and off, you've just got a little sliding release latch here. Just pull that back, twist to the side, and off comes the reflector. Now these use a Bowen's S-type mount, which is pretty standard. As you can see around the flash tube itself, we've got heatsink and we've got a glass protective dome. In the center, that little yellow disc is your LED modeling light, and then we've got the flash tube around that. So you can replace these glass protection domes if you happen to crack one. So in terms of our flash output, 1200 watt seconds is a hell of a lot of flash power, but not only does it have an advantage of lots of power, it actually has an advantage of being able to turn right down to a minimum of 256 power. Most standard flashes in the sort of 400 to 600 watt second range are going to be limited to 1/64th or 128th power, but this will go right down to 1/256th. As we go up in power, you can see that the dial moves in tenths of a stop, but the faster you rotate the dial, the quicker it'll jump through the range. So there you go, there's an overview of the main functions of the unit. Here's a list of the main features you might be interested in. If you do want some further info, head on over to the Godox website and they'll have a lot more in-depth information for you there. So the first time I actually used a Godox AD1200 was at a workshop. It wasn't actually this unit, it was one that I borrowed from someone else. And it was an outdoor flash workshop, and I managed to get my very good friend Dina, aka Jaguar Jonze, who's a local singer-songwriter, musician. She also happens to be a motorbike rider and has a very cool Ducati. And so I thought she'd be a great subject for an outdoor portrait in a sort of urban location. And I happened to have just down the road from the studio a very cool little spot outside of Metalworks, and that has some very grungy looking metal bins outside of the premises. So I got permission to shoot there, and we ran the workshop in that area and did a couple of setups with the bike and also just with Dina posing on her own. Now, it wasn't a particularly sunny day, there was a fair bit of cloud around, so there wasn't much need to go into high-speed sync, but on a couple of occasions we did push the unit and put it into high-speed sync, shooting at shutter speeds around 3/20th, 400th and 500th of a second. But that was all we really needed to push it to, given the amount of available light there was around at the time. Now, I didn't shoot too many shots because I was running the workshop, but I had, I think, around 10 participants, and they were all firing away. And we had the AD1200 running for around 2.5 hours, and it didn't skip a beat. Given that we didn't have to overpower any particularly bright available light, we didn't have to push the unit up too high. So I think 1/4 power was about as high as we needed to push it. I also used this unit on a commercial job. It was a corporate headshot job, and that required shooting around 150 staff over 2 days in 4 different locations. So having a really portable unit which had a lot of battery power was ideal in that situation. It was a really simple setup, just a portable backdrop and just a one light using an umbrella. And over the 2 days I probably shot around about 1,000 images, and again didn't have to charge the unit because I wasn't running it at full power. The 5200 milliamp battery that is supplied with the AD1200 will give you around 500 full power flashes. So if you're only using it around an 8th or 16th power, it's going to last for a very long time. And most recently I used the AD1200 on a tuition session with one of my regular guys, and it was an outdoor creative portrait session. We had the lovely Annaliese McGuire modeling for us with hair and makeup and styling by Lily Reveille. And we actually also shot some images using the Godox AD400 Pro. And some of those shots we were using in high-speed sync. And because there was 2 of us shooting at the same time, just taking it in turns. Using high-speed sync, the AD1200 overheated pretty quickly. So that meant our recycle times increased to roughly around 10 seconds, which made shooting quite difficult. So then we switched over to the AD1200, and by the time we moved down to the creek location, the light level had dropped quite a bit, so we didn't need to run this unit in high-speed sync to get the exposure that we needed. So you may be thinking that 1200 watt seconds is a bit of overkill, and for some situations it certainly is. There's not a lot of studio situations where you would need this much power, especially for normal sort of portraiture work. But outdoors on location, the more power you've got, the more headroom you've got, especially when using high-speed sync. Having more power allows you to have the flash unit a little bit further away from your subject and still light them without pushing the unit all the way up to full power. Your smaller flash units do need to be a little bit closer to your subject, and that means the actual light or softbox can intrude into the frame. So with something like the AD1200, you can get that light a little bit further away, shoot a little bit wider, and include more of the scene in your frame. So I've used a number of different battery powered flashes on location over the years. Ones I'm most familiar with are probably the Elinchrom ELB 400 and 500, as well as their ELB 1200, which is a similar form factor. But I've also used the Godox AD400 and AD600s. And by far my favorite form factor is this battery pack with the remote head. And that's mainly because not only does it give you easy access to the controls if you need to change anything, but also it's just that little extra added security of having your main power unit down on the ground with the remote head being a lot lighter weight up on your stand. I always recommend sandbagging your stand anyway, especially outdoors, because any little gust of wind with a big softbox or umbrella is going to take the light over. But I'd much rather my flash head falling over onto the ground, which is a little bit cheaper to replace than replacing your whole battery pack unit. So far I'm really impressed with this unit. I think for a price of around about 2,400 Australian dollars, it's very, very good value compared to a lot of the competitors. So hopefully soon I'll get the opportunity to do the original shoot that I had planned for this, which is a bit more action orientated. And that's going to really put it through its paces and make use of the high-speed sync functionality. As soon as I do that, I will share the behind-the-scenes video, and I'll talk a little bit more about my approach to shooting outdoor flash portraits. So thanks for watching. I hope you got some good information out of that. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask below. And if you did enjoy the video, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao for now.